Hello my friends, welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday for Tuesday, March 26, 2019. This is Jennifer. Today I bring you a video in 3 parts. Part 1 is going to be all about Linus quilts. These are 3 Linus quilts that I got the binding on Sunday. We had a little bit of an impromptu sew day at my friend Domine's house, and I just brought binding because I had quilted these 3 Linus quilts and they were just sitting in a stack waiting with their strips of binding to be bound, so that is what I did. This quilt is all orphan blocks. I pieced this top from donated blocks and then I quilted it on my quilt frame with my Unique. This was a set of blocks that was donated and it came to me last year, and I am sorry but I don't remember who sent it because I get so many orphan blocks in the mail. So if you sent these blocks, please do let me know so that I can give you credit for this quilt top. Like I said, this was a stack of blocks and I pieced them all together and turned them into a quilt. This quilt top was donated by Alita and I got it in the mail. I think that was maybe February. She sent me a couple of quilt tops and some fabric and a few other goodies in a big box. I still have one other quilt top from Alita to quilt. So these 3 Linus quilts are ready to go. All they need are their, I need to sew on their little Linus labels, and then I like to wash my quilts before I turn them in just because sometimes I put fabric on the back that has been in my stash for a really long time. I get orphan blocks from all over the place and some kids have allergies, so I try to get everything washed and cleaned and then I keep them away from all of the kitties that would love to lay on them until the next Linus meeting. For the second part of this video, we're going to talk about a very small project that I did for my son. He was home for spring break last week, so if you've been trying to email me and I haven't emailed you back, that is why, because I spent a lot of time with my son last week. He loves to cosplay, as you guys know, and he's working on a cosplay for Speedwagon from season 1 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So part of this character's costume is he wears a top hat that has a diamond pattern around the top. So my son has a top hat and we figured out together how to basically create a sleeve for it, and I did that. It's entirely paper pieced and it is wrap around and it velcros in the back so he can just take it off so it doesn't damage his top hat at all. He can just take it off, and the birds are Twitter-pated today. Anyway, so he can just take it off when he wants to use it as his regular top hat, because what 21-year-old guy doesn't need to wear a top hat on a daily basis? Now we're going to move on to part 3, which is a surprise. Surprise! I finished Sweet Reflections. I am so excited to share this with you guys. I didn't anticipate having it done this week, but I put it on my frame after I finished the last Linus quilt that I had quilted. I had sort of held off on it because originally I was going to do the Flower Power design that I did on one of the Linus quilts that I turned in last month, and in the end I decided that what I really wanted to do was meander, because it's like my heart when I quilt. I love meanders and swirls, and so I did a tiny meander all over this. I did want a tiny quilt pattern just because I really want to make sure that all of these squares are very secure, because some of this fabric is really old. There is fabric in here from when my kids were little, when I made them clothes. There's fabric from when I used to make my husband shorts. There is fabric from some of the blouses my mom made for me when I was in high school. There's leftover fabric from my wedding quilt that she made for us when we first got married. So there is fabric in here going back 30 years, and I'm extremely happy to have this finished. This is a free pattern on Sew Hook. Each block has there's a gray background and then a neutral background. So you have 2 different neutral backgrounds just to give it a little interest. The first thing I'm doing when I'm done recording is washing this because I can't wait to see the scrunch. Now I need to show you the back, because the back is almost as special as the front. When I finished the Sweet Reflections quilt top, whenever it was, I think it was January, might have been December, I don't remember. I told you guys that I found some fabric I had pieced together for an unknown reason that I was going to use for the back. I have remembered what this fabric was for. It was about the size of a king-size sheet, and I had pieced together just a bunch of random hunks of fabric. It's all left over from things like shorts, pajamas, you name it, anything I used to make for my kids. It's all left over from that. And what this was a giant, basically, sheet that I made for my kids so that they could build tents inside the house. When they were little, we did, tents where you turn your furniture over, you pull your chairs out, whatever, and you throw stuff over it. But I made this one specifically so the light would show through it so that they could have a tent that they could see inside of, because because, you know, when you do that out of quilts and stuff, it works great, but it might be a little dark inside. I had completely forgotten about this. I forgot it existed. I forgot that I had done it. One of the best parts about this is all the seams in this are 5/8 inches because I did not make quilts when I put this together. I pieced the whole thing in red. Apparently that's what was on my sewing machine at the time, and it's all sewn in red thread. There was a lot of this left over because the quilt is it's about 60 by 80. I'd have to measure it again to tell you for sure, but I think it's about 60 by 80. So I had a good chunk of this left over. I decided not to bind it in this fabric for a couple of reasons. One, most of it isn't quilting fabric, and two, I wanted something a little tougher around the edges, so I went with a gray fabric that I had in my stash. It also kind of pulls it together because there's so much stuff going on both the front and the back. I do want to tell you very quickly about the label on this quilt. I did do an embroidered label. I had a design I bought from Urban Threads that had notebook paper in the background. I removed the text from that in Brilliance, and then I added my information to make the label because I thought it would go well with the fact that almost all the fabrics on this are from when my kids were little, and so I like the notebook paper to kind of pull that all together. I'm extraordinarily happy with this finish. It is long overdue. I kept this fabric in a box for years, both front and back, not knowing what I was going to do with any of it, and now it's a quilt, and it is going to be washed and put on my sofa for a snuggle quilt, and I am delighted to have it done. So I have been finishing, as you may have noticed, a lot of large quilts for myself this year. Since January, my Princess Bride quilt has been finished. I finished my Talk to Me Tuesday swap quilt, and I have finished this quilt. I finished my 2018 Talk to Me Tuesday swap quilt in the fall last year. These are all good sized quilts. So my personal quilt stash has been getting very large. I have started dealing with this by giving away some of my quilts. So I gave my son pretty much his choice of what he wanted to take. I gave him, I pulled everything out and I told him he could have whatever he wanted, and he ended up taking the quilt that I made from my chocolate box fabric that I call my Australia quilt. All of the focus fabrics are fabrics that Kat gave me that came from Australia. So it has koalas and it has sea turtles and it has kangaroos and all kinds of, wallabies. It has all kinds of Australian animals and some Aboriginal art and other things like that. So he took that one, and that is now living at his apartment at UTD. And yesterday I gave my 2015 Project of Doom to our own silly Sarah. So Sarah is a massive Harry Potter fan, and she has a quilt I made, but she didn't have one that I had paper piece that was like one of my very original designs, and I wanted her to have that because she's pretty much just part of our family. And also the amount of squealing and giggling that happened after I gave it to her, totally worth it. So I have begun to give away some of my quilts, which is fantastic, and I love being able to share those with friends and family. A couple of quick reminders for you guys. April is our 10th anniversary for Talk to Me Tuesday, and I will be giving away a prize to one lucky person. Will get a prize from me, and one lucky person will get a prize from Rainey, and that is for participants who post videos at talktometuesday.wordpress.com in April. If you don't have access, email me and I'll give you access. If you just want to post one video, you can send me the link to your YouTube video and I will post it in April. And that drawing will be for Talk to Me Tuesdayers, past, present, and future. I will post a picture of what I've accumulated so far for the prize. I'm putting together a prize that is a bunch of my favorite stuff. That is going to be a prize from me, and then Rainey's is a surprise until she chooses to tell you guys. Also, tomorrow is the last day of the Star Trek row along. You'll have the last row. All of the quilt assembly instructions are already on Fandom and Stitches. They've been up since the beginning. And then next week will be the design invitational. I do have quite a few designs already in for that. So but if you want to participate in that, make sure you get that in so that I can include it for the design invitational. The week after that, I will announce a fun thing that we're going to be doing in April. And today, look for what our events are going to be coming up following that, because I will be posting those on Fandom and Stitches probably this afternoon. You guys have a wonderful week. You have a crafty week, and I will see you next week. Bye.